Have you ever felt how someone who used to be there suddenly starts to drift away? There are no explanations, just a change in their energy. The answers that used to come quickly now take hours. The plans that used to arise effortlessly now seem like a commitment. And you, without realizing it, start to fall into the trap. You wonder what you did wrong. You try to correct the course. You try harder. Just what you shouldn't do. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Attraction is not begged for. It's imposed. People don't drift away because you have less value, but because in their perception, somehow, you started to lose that shine that made you unique. You stopped being a challenge, a magnetic energy, and became a safe option. But tell me, have you ever seen someone obsess over what's guaranteed? If someone drifts away, the worst strategy is to try to hold them back. Because when you give too much, when you care too much, when you become a slave to their validation, you become dispensable. It's hard to accept it, but it's the reality. Respect, desire, and attraction are based on scarcity, on uncertainty, on perceived value. And that's where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics understood a truth that few apply in their love life. Control is not in what others do, but in how you position yourself. You can't force anyone to value you, but you can become someone impossible to ignore. You can't control if someone leaves, but you can make it so that, when they do, they feel your absence as an impossible void to fill. And that's exactly what you'll learn today. In this video, I'm going to show you 9 principles based on Stoic wisdom and human psychology that will change the way you handle any relationship where you feel you're losing control. This is not manipulation. This is reclaiming your power. So if you're ready to stop chasing and start attracting, pay attention, because what you're about to discover can change everything. 1. Ignore them, and they will do the impossible to get you back. The first thing you need to understand is that when someone distances themselves from you, their mind has already made a decision. Maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously, but at some point, they started to see you as something safe, something predictable. And predictability does not generate emotion. It does not cause desire. It is not something that is valued. This is where most people make the worst mistake, trying to recover what is slipping away. They seek answers, send messages, try to show themselves more attentive, more available, more loving, naively believing that this will make the other person reconsider. But all they achieve is to deepen the problem. Interest is not begged, it is awakened. And the most effective way to awaken it is not by chasing, it is by disappearing. When you ignore someone who was expecting a reaction from you, their brain goes into conflict. Their ego expected you to search, to insist, to try to understand what happened. But instead of that, what they find is silence, indifference, and uncertainty generates obsession. There is nothing more unsettling for the human mind than what was once certain and suddenly is not. In psychology, this is known as the principle of scarcity. We value more what we feel we can lose. And when someone feels they are losing you, without you making the slightest effort to prevent it, their perception changes. This is where the Stoic strategy comes in. The Stoics understood an undeniable truth. Real power is not in what others do, but in how you respond. You cannot force anyone to value you, but you can withdraw in such a way that your absence is felt more than your presence. But this is where many people fail. They believe that ignoring means blocking, throwing tantrums, trying to pretend they don't care, when in reality, they are checking their phone every 5 minutes. That's not ignoring, that's reacting. Truly ignoring means you go on with your life as if nothing. You don't ask, you don't search, you don't drop hints, you don't post passive-aggressive phrases hoping they will see them. You simply move on, without expecting anything, without forcing anything. When you do this, the other person faces a terrifying feeling. They no longer have control over you, and the human mind hates losing control. If someone was used to you always being there, always responding quickly, always being the one trying to solve things, and suddenly all that disappears, their perception changes. You stop being someone safe and become an enigma, a mystery, something that was once taken for granted, but now seems to be slipping from their hands. And that is exactly what makes someone come back to you. Because desire does not arise from availability, it arises from doubt. Why doesn't he write to me anymore? Has he found someone else? Does he not care about me anymore? That internal dialogue is what makes someone who was moving away suddenly start to come back. Not because they suddenly value you more, but because now they feel they are losing you. But here's the trick. You can't do this expecting an immediate result. Many people try to ignore for a few days, see that the other person does not react, and panic. They want to break the silence. They want to check if their absence is working. And the moment they do, they lose the game. If you really want to regain power in a relationship, you must be patient. You must stand firm. You must accept that ignoring someone is a test of endurance. And above all, you must understand this. If someone really had interest in you, they will feel your absence. And if they don't, then they never did. In either case, you win. Because you will have proven to yourself that you do not depend on anyone, that your value is not in external validation, that you can go on with your life without the need to chase anyone. 2. Disappear and become their obsession. If ignoring someone generates uncertainty, disappearing completely creates a void impossible to ignore. And that void is what makes someone who once saw you as an option suddenly start to see you as a necessity. Most people make the same mistake when someone pulls away. They wait. They maintain minimal contact, check their social networks, analyze every move of the other person. And the worst, they make it clear that even if they don't speak, they are still there. Do you know what message you send when you do that? No matter how much you ignore me, I'm still available for you. And at that moment, you lost. Because what is safe, what is easy, what does not generate risk of loss, is not valued. The human mind operates under a basic principle. What disappears suddenly, without explanation, becomes an obsession. Think about this. When a song gets stuck in your head, it's not because you heard it many times. It's because you heard it, and then it disappeared before you could finish it. That's how attraction works. If someone is used to your presence, your interest, your energy, and suddenly all of that disappears without warning, you leave a gap in their mind. And the brain hates gaps. It wants to solve them. What happened? Why did they stop looking for me? Do they not care about me anymore? And at that moment, the roles reverse. You are no longer the one seeking answers. Now, you are the enigma that needs to be solved. But for this to work, there is a fundamental rule. Disappearing does not mean making a show of your absence. Don't post indirect messages. Don't try to attract attention in an obvious way. Don't try to provoke jealousy in a childish way. Just disappear. Stop writing. Stop reacting. Stop existing in their world. Because when someone feels that from one day to the next you stopped being accessible, their perception changes. And what was once seen as safe now feels lost. And here's the best part. If someone really had interest in you, they won't be able to stand it. First, they will ignore your absence. Then they will try to rationalize it. Then they will feel it. And when they feel it, they will start looking for you. But here comes the most important part. When they come back, they can't find you in the same place. If you disappear, only to come running back as soon as they look for you, you destroy the whole effect. You have to become someone different. When they come back, you have to be colder, more distant, more enigmatic, because the moment they feel they still have you for sure, they will pull away again. The key to this strategy is not just to disappear. It's to disappear and evolve. When they come back, they must find a version of you that is no longer at the same emotional level where they left you. Stronger, busier, more unreachable. That's the real trap. Make them look for you, only for them to realize that now they are the ones who have to make an effort. Stoicism teaches us not to depend on the validation of others, to become our own power center. And if you apply this, not only will you regain attraction, but you will realize something even more important. When you disappear, you give yourself the opportunity to see who really values you. 3. Become the prize that no one would dare to lose. Imagine this. You're at an exclusive auction. The room is full of people with money and power, all competing for a rare and valuable object. The bidding starts and the prices quickly rise. Everyone wants it. Everyone is willing to pay whatever it takes. But the moment the auctioneer says that the object is no longer available, that it's no longer for sale, madness ensues. Suddenly, what was already valuable now becomes an obsession. Why? Because the human mind works like this. We don't value what is always available. We value what is hard to get. And now tell me, do you behave like a luxury item or like a discounted product? If someone walked away from you, at some point, you stopped being the prize and became the easy option. Not because you changed, but because you became predictable, available, accessible. And what is accessible is taken for granted. The key to changing this is not trying to convince anyone to value you. It's making them unable to afford to lose you. And for that, you need 3 things. 1. Disappear. Don't give them access to the same old thing. If someone feels they can have you whenever they want, they will never feel the urgency to do something for you. Cut off availability. 2. Reinvent yourself. When they see you again, they have to meet someone better, stronger, more interesting, more focused on themselves. If you're still the same person they left behind, nothing will change. 3. Let the world speak for you. Don't post indirect messages. Don't make a show. Simply become so incredible that the echo of your improvement reaches their ears without you saying a single word. Because when someone walks away, they expect you to still be there waiting. But when they see you moving on without them, they start to question everything. Why isn't he, she looking for me? Was I never that important? What if now I'm the one who's losing him, her? That's the moment when the story changes. Because now it's not you who needs to get anyone back. Now it's them who have to prove they deserve to be in your life. And that's the real difference between someone who chases and someone who is chased. 4. Make your presence unpredictable, and you will be desired more. Think about the last time you watched a series that really captivated you. You couldn't stop watching it. Each episode ended with an unexpected twist that left you needing to see the next one. Why? Because you didn't know what was going to happen. Uncertainty is addictive. The unknown generates anticipation, and the unpredictable keeps you hooked. Now, apply this to your life. If you're always available, if you always respond instantly, if you always say yes to everything, you become a predictable story. And the predictable does not generate excitement. It does not cause desire. It is not valued. Attraction needs uncertainty. Desire is fueled by the feeling that something is not completely guaranteed. If someone knows that you will always be there, they will not feel the urgency to do anything for you. But if your presence is a mystery, if sometimes you're there and sometimes you're not, if they can't exactly predict how you'll react, something changes. Because now they can't take you for granted. Now you are someone who arouses interest. The human brain is designed to seek patterns. It wants certainty. It wants security. It wants to know what comes next. But when it doesn't get it, it goes on alert. And in that state, attraction intensifies. This is what makes certain people unforgettable. Not because they are better, but because at some point they created a void, a doubt, a mystery, and the mystery demands to be solved. Here's the key. It's not about playing with someone's feelings. It's not about ignoring for the sake of ignoring or disappearing without reason. It's about breaking the routine, about not being completely predictable, because when you become a habit, a constant, people get used to it, and what is taken for granted, sooner or later, stops mattering. So change your pace. Respond sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Accept plans, but also reject them. Don't always explain what you do or tell everything right away. Maintain the mystery, but without exaggerating. It's not about manipulating, it's about having a life interesting enough that your attention is not easy to obtain. When someone feels that they don't have you assured, they start to wonder. They start to think about you when you're not there. And when someone thinks about you without you doing anything, that's when you really win. Because now, without seeking it, you have become their recurring thought. If you always give the same, if you're always present no matter what, you become a habit, and nobody obsesses over habits. But when you give the unexpected, when you break the monotony, when you leave some uncertainty in the air, then you become unforgettable. 5. Think like someone unattainable, and that's how they will see you. Imagine someone who seems to be on another level, someone whose presence commands respect, without needing to say a single word. This person does not beg for attention, does not seek validation, does not worry about fitting in. They are simply in their own world, focused on their own goals. And precisely because of this, people want to get closer, because the perceived value is not in how much you want to be chosen, but in how difficult it is to access you. If you want someone to see you as someone valuable, you first have to see yourself as someone valuable. And this is not an attitude trick. It's not about pretending to be confident when deep down you're desperate. It's about reprogramming your mindset to the point where you really don't need anyone's validation. Here's the most important rule. Others will treat you as you treat yourself. If you act like you're an easy option, they'll see you as an easy option. If you act like someone who doesn't need to impress anyone, they'll see you as someone worth impressing. The problem is that many people approach others from a place of need. They want to be accepted. They want to be liked. They want to fit in. And that energy is felt. When you need to be chosen, you automatically reduce your value. But when you give the impression that your world is so complete, so interesting, and so valuable that someone has to prove they deserve to be in it, everything changes. Here's the secret. People don't value what they feel they can have whenever they want. They value what they feel is a privilege. And the only way to be perceived as a privilege is to act like someone who doesn't need anyone to feel good about themselves. It's not arrogance, it's not pride, it's understanding that your life doesn't revolve around anyone else but yourself. If you stop putting yourself in a position of need and start acting from abundance, you'll notice how others start to see you differently. Because when someone feels they can't have you so easily, they try harder. Attraction is not logical, it's instinctive. And human instinct leads us to want what is hard to get. If you project the mindset of someone who is on another level, others will perceive you as someone unattainable. 6. If they come back, set the rules or push them away. Most people make the same mistake when someone who left them comes back. They welcome them with open arms, without questioning anything. And here's the truth, nobody tells you. If someone walked away and comes back as if nothing happened, it's not because they value you, it's because they know they can do it. If someone comes back, it's because their perception of you has changed. Now, they feel like they're losing you, that they no longer have you assured. But here's where you need to be smart. If you allow them to come back without conditions, they'll treat you the same as before. It's easy to fall into the trap of emotion. Someone who ignored your messages, who walked away without explanations, or who simply lost interest, suddenly comes back, and your first reaction is relief. I made it. They came back. But the question is not if they came back. The question is, why did they come back, and under what terms? If you accept someone back without setting boundaries, without demanding a change in the dynamics, without making it clear that now you are the one setting the rules, you are teaching them that they can disappear and come back whenever they want, without consequences. And if someone knows they can walk away and you'll always welcome them with the same disposition, they'll lose interest again, because there's no challenge, no perceived value, nothing to prove. They have you assured again. Here's the mindset you should adopt. If someone comes back, it's on my terms. If not, it's better they don't come back. Set clear boundaries. Ask what they really want. Don't allow someone who treated you as an option to come back thinking they can occupy a special place in your life without proving they deserve it. If they come back, they must prove they are worth it. And if they're not willing to do so, then they're not worth your time. This is the ultimate test of whether you really have power in the relationship. Because if someone comes back and you, instead of jumping for joy, take control of the situation, you become more valuable. You become someone who is not available for just anyone, someone who is not swayed by temporary emotions, someone who knows that their time and energy are not given away to those who do not value them. If someone comes back and accepts your rules, it means they are truly willing to make an effort for you. If they don't accept them and leave, then they just wanted the security of knowing they could still have you. And you're not here to be anyone's option. You're here to be the choice of someone who truly deserves it. 7. Speak less, show more. People with real power don't waste energy explaining themselves. They don't try to convince anyone of their worth. They don't beg for attention with words. They simply exist in a way that makes it impossible to ignore them. Look around you. In any social group, there's always someone who talks too much, who wants to impress, who tries to sell themselves with every word. And then there's the person who doesn't say much, but whose presence is felt. That's the person with power. The most common mistake when someone walks away is to try to regain their interest with words, explanations, justifications, promises. But words carry no weight without action. They don't inspire respect if they're not backed by something real. If someone walks away and you try to convince them to stay with speeches, you'll only make them lose even more interest. Because attraction is not based on how much you talk, but on how you behave when the other person is not around. Whoever has confidence in their worth doesn't need to say it. They don't need to justify why they deserve respect. They simply act like someone who deserves it. And the moment you stop explaining and start moving with that energy, the dynamics change. If before you were looking for explanations, disappear without giving any. If before you promised that you were going to improve, do it in silence and let them notice it for themselves. If before you tried to prove your worth with words, let your new attitude speak for you. Because when someone who took you for granted sees that you're not waiting, that you're not justifying yourself, that you're not begging for validation, they start to wonder what's going on. And when someone starts wondering about you without you doing anything, that's when you regain control. Talking too much is the act of someone who fears being forgotten. Silence, on the other hand, is the weapon of someone who knows they can't be ignored. 8. Make your absence hurt more than your presence. The human being is contradictory by nature. They want what they cannot have. They value what they feel they are losing. But they ignore what is always available. That's the reality, as hard as it may be to accept. We don't miss people for what they did while they were with us. We miss them when their absence feels like an impossible void to fill. In any relationship, when you become part of the scenery, something familiar and constant, you stop being perceived as a prize. You are simply part of the routine. And the routine does not arouse emotion. It does not generate desire. It does not leave a mark. But the moment you disappear, the moment someone opens their phone and does not find your message, the moment they realize that your attention is no longer guaranteed, something changes. Because now, there is an absence. And that absence hurts. Most people play this game poorly. They think that to be missed, they must be present. They must insist. They must constantly remind others of their existence. But well-managed absence is more powerful than any presence. It's not about disappearing with resentment or with a childish attitude of, "I'm leaving, so you'll look for me." It's about withdrawing with such confidence in yourself that the other person has no choice but to notice your absence. Think of a perfume. When someone enters a room wearing an incredible scent, their presence is strong. But when they leave, the perfume lingers a little longer. And at that moment, when the smell still floats in the air, but the person is no longer there, that's when you really feel it. Your absence should be like that. It should linger in the minds of others, long after you have left. But this only works if you really leave, if you keep checking their social media, if you keep asking about them, if you keep waiting in silence for them to return, you haven't really left. And if you haven't left, they can't miss you. People only feel the loss when they understand that something is no longer available. And that's the point you need to reach. Not with resentment, not with hints, with absolute silence. At first, they won't react. They will believe it's temporary. They will think that sooner or later you will return. But over time, when they see that you continue without them, that your life has not stopped, that they are no longer part of your routine, that's when the absence begins to weigh. The mind plays its worst trick when something disappears without explanation. Uncertainty is addictive. And when someone starts to wonder why you're not there, what you're doing, if you've changed, if you're now better without them, the intrigue turns into necessity. But there's a detail you need to understand. This is not just about disappearing. It's about making your absence mean something. It's not enough to just leave. You have to leave and become a more interesting story than the one you left behind. If you leave but remain the same, If you disappear but your life doesn't change, you don't make an impact. But if you leave, and when they see you again, you are a better version of yourself, stronger, more attractive, more in control, then they don't just miss you. They feel they have lost something irreplaceable. The true power of absence is not in making the other person suffer. It's in making their mind unable to replace you with anything else. This is where most people fail. They leave expecting an immediate reaction, a "I miss you" message in a few days. But real absence, the one that leaves a mark, takes time to be felt. It's when someone, after weeks or months, realizes that they no longer have access to you, that what they took for granted no longer exists. If at that moment they try to return, now the control is yours. Because if you accept them without conditions, you only confirm that you never really left. But if you maintain your worth, if you continue with the same energy of independence, then they are the ones who must prove that they deserve to return to your life. 9. Patience is the most powerful trap. The problem with most people is that they want immediate results. If someone walks away, they look for an instant reaction. They ignore for a day and expect the other to return the next. They disappear for a week and believe that's enough to be missed. But the truth is that time is the ultimate test of who really has the power. Patience is not just waiting. It's knowing that time is working in your favor without the need to force anything. It's trusting that while you move on with your life, the other person is processing your absence, feeling the weight of the void you left, facing the possibility that they may have lost you forever. And here's the trick. Most don't have the discipline to let that happen. They get desperate. They break the silence too soon. They try to check if their absence is working. And the moment they do, they destroy the entire effect. Imagine you're fishing. You've cast the rod, and now you just have to wait for the fish to bite the hook. But instead of waiting, you pull the rod out of the water every 5 seconds to see if something bit. What do you think happens? Nothing. You caught nothing, because you didn't have the patience to let the fish come to you. That's how attraction works. You can't rush the process. You can't force the reaction you want. You can only withdraw and trust that the void you left will eventually do its job. At first, the other person won't feel anything. They might even enjoy the distance. They'll think they're in control, that they can live without you. But time is treacherous. One day, when they least expect it, something will hit them. A memory, a song, a conversation in which someone mentions your name. And suddenly, the absence that they didn't care about before becomes an unanswered question. Why did they never come back? And that question is the beginning of the end for them. The human mind hates loose ends. It needs to close stories. It needs to understand what happened. And when someone disappears from their life without giving explanations, the brain starts looking for answers. It starts to imagine, to doubt, to feel the loss in a way it didn't before. But this only works if you truly have the patience to wait. If you play your cards right, if you disappear without seeking, without waiting, without breaking the silence prematurely, then one day you'll receive the message you never thought would come. And at that moment, the question will no longer be whether the other person misses you. The real question will be whether you still want them back, because patience is not only the most powerful trap, it's also the proof that you've already won the game.
Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment "I am Stoic" as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your stoic mind.